Welcome back, guys. So this is continuations of linked list, and here we will try to understand how insertion happens in the linked list, right? So first we will understand the concept through a diagram. Okay, all concepts through a diagram, and then we'll convert them into a code. So first let's understand through diagram. So how do you insert a node in the linked list, right? So there are three ways we insert. I mean, there could be a three category of insertion, right? One, you might be doing that at the beginning, right? The one which you do at the end, and one which you do at the middle, right? In general, so if you talk about any list, what we do, either we insert at the beginning, or we insert in the middle, or we insert at the end, right? We'll see that how do we convert this into a program. But first, try to understand how do you insert in the beginning. So let's say if you look at the diagram which I am projecting here, you have a linked list which has already three record, right? Three record is already added in the linked list. You need to add one new node at the beginning. So how do you do that, right? And you know that the first node is always a head node, and the last node will point to the null. So by design, what we need to do to insert the node at the beginning, our new node should be the first node, right? So what we have to do in program, we will create one new node. So I am creating one new node, which you can see that here there is a new node, and 80 is the data, and in beginning this guy will be pointing to null, right? This is the new node, and I can tell you why this is pointing to a null, right? Because when I'm creating a node, I'm supplying the data. Now you go with the program which I explained you. This is the class through which we'll create the node. So this class has one constructor which will take only data as an argument. So when you create the object of this constructor, the data will get initialized through this constructor because you are passing the data. What about this field? In Java, you know that when you create the object of a class, all fields, all class variables, instance variable will get initialized. Let's say some of the fields which you are not mapping through the constructor, in that case it will get initialized with the default value. So next I am not initializing here. So what this is going to be? This is going to be a null, because the class default value is the null, right? Whereas the integer default value is the 0. So when you don't initialize any integer variable, it will get initialized with the 0. So you can see that through this constructor I am initializing only data. So my this dot data, so this dot data will refer this current class global variable, and this will refer to the local. So 80 will get initialized, whereas this next, okay, is going to be a null because it is not initialized. Same thing, now come back here, 80 is the data, this will get initialized with the null because second object I'm in the list node, I'm not initializing it, so it will be null. So this guy will be pointing to null. Now let's see that how this works. So when this guy will be pointing to null, uh, what we need to do by design, right? By design, what we have to do, we need to write a logic where this head should now point to this new node, and this new node dot next should point to this previous first node. Okay, so you can see that here dotted line, this dotted line will come here, and your head will come here. You can see that by design, right? So that's how this is going to be a first node. How this is going to be a first node? It's a through code I will explain you, but here try to understand, because people, they will ask you in the interview and you have to express like this. You have to say that first create a node, you already have a linked list, your first node will always point to the null. Then you need to write a logic where your head should come and head should point to the first node, which you can see that here, right? And the new node whatever I have created here dot next should point to the previous first node. Now with this is going to be your first node, and you are inserting at the beginning, right? In the beginning the data got inserted, and now the previous first node became what? This guy became a second node. Now you can see that that's how you should do an insertion. Now how do you do insertions at the end, right? With this concept, if somebody will ask you Can you write a diagram? How do you insert the node at the end? How do you do that? So let's say you have a node, right? Already you have a link, let's say a linked list which has three data, right? Now you know that your first data, the head will always point to a first node, right? So you know the head, right? You need to insert a node at the end. So first what you need to do, you create a new node, right? Again, the new node, it is the data, next is pointing to the null as I have shown you, because I am creating the object of the constructor which through which I am initializing only the data, and my class also has a next, so this is going to be a null, right? Because this next is not getting initialized through this constructor, so default value of the object type is the null. Now come back. So this is pointing to the null. Now how we should do that? By design, this the last node in the previous last node should point to this guy, okay, by design, right? So how do you write the logic, which we'll see that later. So you can see that this node is pointing to the last node, and now the new node next will be pointing to null. So with this, now this guy became the last node, right, and this guy became the previous to the last node, right, second last node, right? You can see that. That's how you will insert at the end. So that's how you should explain in the interview also, right? Always say that. And one more thing, people will ask you, how do you go at the end of the linked list? You always say that we know that the head node will point to the first node, okay? So when the head node will point to the first node, we can write one logic where we have to go till null, okay? The moment we'll encounter the null, which means we'll come to know that this is the end of the linked list, right? So we can write a while logic, while head dot get next not is equal to null, right? We should write a logic that through coding part we'll see that, right? But I'm just trying to explain you. You can write one small logic while loop. You can write head dot next. If this guy not is equal to null, if this not null, then head is equal to head dot next, right? Every time you increase the moment you will encounter the null, which is going to be the last node. Coding here, do not try to understand, try to understand the concept. Coding we will see that later. Now the another I told, there are three way. One you can insert at the beginning, one you can insert at the end, and one you can insert at the middle. So people will ask you, can you explain me how do you insert the data in the middle of the linked list? First draw one linked list like this, okay, 20, 30, 40. Last node is pointing to the null, first node head will point to the first node, right? You also explain, while when you are explaining in that interview, please make sure that you are explaining each and every point. Say that the first node uh, second portion will store the reference of second node. Let's say this is the reference of second node, this guy will keep 200 and this is the reference of 200, right? That's how you will identify, right? Now you need to insert in the middle. So to do that, first you need to create one new node. As I told, again node will have a data, and the next will be pointing to the null, right? Because through constructor I'm just supplying the data. Now this is pointing to the null. So let's say, after 30 I need to insert that. People will ask you like, okay, you need to insert this node here. How do you do that? Okay, first explain and then write the code. So when you try to explain, say that I'll do one thing. You say that I'll start from the head, I'll write one logic, head dot get next. I'll go to the position, because they will give you the positions, right? In case of middle, they will give you the position, second position, third position, fourth positions. So you write one for loop, okay, go till the position, head dot next. If uh, because you are running a for loop, right? So when you are running a for loop, it becomes very simple. You are saying that I is equal to 0 and I less than, let's say, 2, and you are doing that I plus plus, right? Inside that you are doing that, head is equal to head dot next, right? So when you are doing that head is equal to head dot next, it becomes very simple. Let me erase this, is not proper, because you are running the loop, so you don't have to put not null check. So you can do that head dot, sorry, sorry guys, okay, head dot next, right? So you can write logic like this. You can go till there, till the position, and you can see that after that you look at the beginning one. In the beginning, how you have to insert here, this should point here and this should point here, right? Like this it should point. Same thing I am doing here. You can see that 30 next is pointing to 80, 80 next is pointing to the 40, and that's how you are able to insert the data in the middle. Middle means the position, right? You can see that this guy came pointing here and this guy is pointing here. So finally, if you look at how it becomes first node 20, second 30, third node is 80, and fourth node is equal to 40. That's how you do insertion in the middle. Now we understood the theoretical concept, guys. Okay, guys, please practice the diagrams. These all diagrams people will ask you in the interview. Now, in my next video, I will start with how to code this, right? How through coding you can achieve this, how you can insert at the beginning, how you can insert at the end, how you can insert in the middle. Through coding, I will explain that. Okay, till then, take care. Thank you.